Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably already know that this is my mini-series called Back to Basics, within the larger deep dive into the Thoth system that I'm doing. The Thoth system, based on the deck created by Lady Frida Harris and Harris-Crowley, right? And just in case you are new here, why do I call it my Back to Basics mini-series, or maybe I should just call it a series now? I call it that because I have reined myself in. Yeah, I have a tendency to lay out a whole mess of cards on a table to read them, and I've really limited myself to only 3 tarot cards and 2 oracle cards for this spread, so that we can focus more clearly on a limited number of cards and perhaps get a little bit more out of each of them. Does that make sense? And it's really helped me, I think. It's helped me appreciate the Thoth system as a parallel system to the Rider-Waite-Smith for me. So it's been interesting for me. I hope it's been interesting for you. And I've got a spread already laid out for us to look at. But before we get to that, let me point our minds and our hearts and our spirits in the direction of the word experience. We often say that it's true for me. It is my experience. It is my truth. Without fully realizing or thinking about much of the time that every experience that we have is an interpretation. We don't get the full truth of any experience. Everything that we perceive is through the lens of our interpretation, right? Can you accept that? You've heard of those situations where 100 people observe the same event and there are 100 different versions of that event because each one of them sees things a little differently, perceives things differently, and interprets the perception differently. We might perceive another person as being hostile or uninterested or interested or curious. But is that the truth? That's our experience, right? This week's Tarot and Oracle spread seems to be pointing us in the direction of asking us to acknowledge that everything that we experience is an interpretation. And sometimes our interpretations are valid, they're accurate. Sometimes our interpretations are skewed or prejudiced or biased without our fully recognizing or acknowledging that. We can recognize and acknowledge that, I believe. But we have to start from the belief, the knowledge, the truth that we are interpreting every moment of every day. The idea that this hand has a smooth surface is my interpretation. It is not the truth. You might come and touch my hand and say it's very rough. You might touch my hand and say it's very hard or soft, but that is your interpretation. It is not the truth. And you might say, well, that's my experience. Sure, but your experience is also your interpretation. And again, I think that's where we're going. But I'm not sure. Let's see. What will I do? What will we do? We're going to look at the spread together. And first we'll look at it as one whole, and I'll show you the pieces briefly. And then we'll look at the pieces together and read the cards. Are you all ready? Here we go. Yes, this is a new deck for this series. Yeah, I've had this deck in my collection, in my library. I prefer saying library. In my library for quite a while. It's the 3 cards on the top that you saw were from the Thoth-based tarot deck called the Cosmic Visions Tarot. Yeah, not the Cosmic Tarot, the Cosmic Visions Tarot. And the two cards on the bottom, you've probably seen them before if you've been here before. They're from an oracle deck called the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. And if you're interested in either of these decks, they're both available. I'll have links in the comment description box below. Full disclosure, the Cosmic Vision, oh gosh, it might be the Cosmic Tribe Tarot. I'll put the true title right here, yeah? The Cosmic Tribe Tarot has nudity. So if that is something that is uncomfortable for you, or you don't like seeing male and female bits, you might not be interested in this deck. There's a lot of manipulated photography in the deck of nudity and other stuff. So it's a really interesting deck, and it does seem to be very Thoth-based, although some elements of the cards that I love to see on a Thoth-based deck are not there. They're in the book. So if you get the book with the cards, they are sold as a set, generally, and it's a good book. It's helpful. It requires a little bit more memorization, perhaps, than a Thoth deck. For example, the ones created by Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris, but it's all in there, I think. So, friends, just in case you are new here, there were 3 cards at the top, and this is a positional spread, meaning that each card is responding to a specific prompt. And the 3 prompts are, from left to right, significance, the significant response to the general question that I ask every week in this video series. Yeah? How can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? The first card is the significant response to that question. The second card is the challenge, positive or negative, something we can strive for, to try to achieve, or something that is more of an obstacle, something that is a challenge blocking our way. And then the third card is advice. And then there were 2 cards at the bottom, right? 2 oracle cards. They will either give us advice, or sometimes they will give us a recapitulation of the 3 cards at the top. We'll see how it goes this time. But we've got the cards all laid out. I'm going to show you the 3 cards from the tarot deck once more so you can see them more carefully. I'll give you a couple of seconds to look at that, and then we will read them together. Are you all ready? Here we go. Sometimes when we read a spread, or when we lay a spread, I should say, as we're laying the cards, we think, ah, yes, oh, yeah, oh, yes, yes, I see. Sometimes when we lay the cards, we think, what the heck? Huh? What are you trying to say? This was one of those times. This was one of those times where the cards seemed to be matching the spots, but what are you trying to say was the first reaction I had. And it's probably because I don't use this deck very much. Now, this is a fairly unused deck in my library, and it's beautiful. It's not generally my style, if you will, of card, of images, but I like it, and I see value to it, and we'll look at the cards together. Yeah, from left to right, we had the 6 of Swords, we had the 7 of Wands, and then we had the 9 of Cups. Interesting progression. Yeah, 6, 7, 9. Interesting. We had 3 of the 4 elements, right? We had air for the swords, we had we had fire for the wands, and then water for the cups. We've got a little bit of ill dignity there between the wands and the cups. Now, the air and the fire build each other up, so the significance and the challenge are mutually invigorating. The advice is a little bit of a challenge, I believe. The advice is a challenge, yes, because it's right next to the fire suit, and fire and water are ill-dignified, so there's a little bit of a challenge there. Yeah, some discomfort or something that might need more attention. Does that make sense? And I do try to read with elemental dignities, especially with the Thoth Tarot. And I might be bringing that into my other readings a little bit more, but right now I'm limiting it to my Thoth readings. So, we start off with the Six of Swords, right? Beautiful, beautiful image. Now we have the 6 swords, some pointing up, some pointing down. There's this, we see a lot of air at the top, and at the bottom there's earth, right? Yeah, it looks like a tapestry version of what a field might look like, or maybe a field turned into some sort of digitally manipulated, pixelated image. I don't know. I can't really figure out what that is down there, but it looks earthy, right? The clouds and this air, the blue sky above really give us the air feeling for this 6 of Swords. Now, there's no title on here. There are no glyphs for the astrological associations, but the 6 of Swords is called science. Now, in the Thoth system. And the astrological association is Mercury in Aquarius, which is interesting because Mercury does belong in Aquarius for me. And Mercury is a planet domiciled in Gemini, so this would be the second decanate of Aquarius for me, which would give us the mutable aspect of fixed air's vital attributes entering our reading. We also have the complement of Saturn in Cancer, so we've got a little bit of a complementary water sign here, giving some of its, what do I want to say, psychic, a little bit of its emotional, a little bit of its watery spiritual attributes to the 6 of Swords, this air card, right? And the mutable aspect of fixed air is the willingness to be ready to clean up and get going on the next step for the cardinal aspect, which would be Gemini. What do we want to say about the 6 of Swords? Well, according to interpretations of Crowley's version of the deck, the 6 of Swords is the requirement of measured evaluation. Yeah, it's the science card. Measured evaluation. Evaluating things logically, step by step. Looking at things and seeing how we are interpreting them. Having a calm and measured approach is helpful to whatever problem we might be looking at or giving our attention to. And probably, rather than giving our attention to the problem, we want to give our attention to a solution, and that solution can be derived in a very calm, measured way as we evaluate potential solutions. We want to take our time and observe what's growing and what is not, what is thriving and what is withering. What patterns are connected and what are not connected? Where are the connections? And here you see, can you see those patterns? I don't know. The lighting might not show it to you, but there's a pattern down there that I just can't interpret. So that's our challenge in the positive way, is to interpret those patterns. What is connected? What is not connected? What in this pattern is thriving, growing, expanding? What is withering and dying? And we want to have our adaptability on full force here. We want to be adaptable. We want to have an adaptable spirit to be able to, instead of fixating on what we think should be the right solution, to be willing to go in the direction that is actually indicated by circumstances and what is happening in the world, in our experience, in our natal charts, for example. Yeah? Now, the interpretation of this card by this creator is, instead of science, interpreting worlds. Right? And we got that idea in Crowley's in interpretations of Crowley's work, we get the idea of interpreting things, right? Interpreting our experience, interpreting worlds. And the author of this deck in particular says that there may be uncommon and exceptional experiences for us. So we want to be gentle with ourselves. We want to honor our experience. Now, when I said that we interpret all of our experiences, and because we are interpreting them, what we are interpreting may be valid, may be invalid. That doesn't mean that we want to ignore our experiences or devalue our experiences because they're mere interpretations. That's not what I was saying. We want to honor them and know that we are interpreting what we are experiencing. We also want to know that others are doing the same thing, right? It's not only us that is interpreting the things that we are experiencing and adding layers of meaning and changing our lenses and reinterpreting things with our own biases, our own proclivities, our own personal histories. Other people are doing the exact same thing, right? So if others are acting in ignorance, are not interpreting what we are perceiving or what we are doing accurately or appropriately, we want to let that ignorance pass by. But we don't want to ignore the common world either. We want to appreciate the broad expanse of the world's interpretations of their experiences, because that can inform us as well. While individuals may be misinterpreting or interpreting things in a skewed fashion, and we might want to let that pass by as we value and we validate and we appreciate our own interpretation of experience. Yet we don't want to disconnect from the rest of the world and say, they're all screwed up, I'm the only one who's right. Right? So there's a balance there, which is interesting because if you hang out with me and come back to see the second spread, the Tarot de Marseille spread for this week, there's a very interesting card which might be echoing that aspect of this spread. The balance, the harmony of my interpretation and of experience and others' interpretations of experience, and where is the truth in that? Right? Not devaluing others' experience, not devaluing my experience, not devaluing anybody's interpretations, but looking for the truth that can be alchemized by the harmony of all of those things. We might come up with something fresh. We might come up with something even more valuable than expected. Does that make sense? So that is what we are advised. We're advised that is what it would be helpful for us to be doing in this coming time period, perhaps this coming week, to really look at how we are interpreting things. Look at how others are interpreting things. And if the interpretations of others seem to be ignorant on an individual basis, then we might want to let those interpretations just pass by. If, however, we see the rest of the world interpreting things in one way and we are out of step with that, we might want to look at it and think that, well, maybe my interpretation of my experience is not accurate. Maybe. Not certainly, but maybe. honor my interpretation, but also know that it might not be accurate, right? As we open ourselves to a diversity of experience, we don't want to close ourselves off this week either, right? We want to be open to, like the author of this deck said, uncommon and exceptional experiences as well, as we are gentle with ourselves and honor our interpretations, right? So, what is the challenge? The challenge is this card, which is the Seven of Wands, called Valor by Harris-Crowley. And the astrological association is Mars in Leo, which is a very, very valid pairing of astrology for me. So that brings in the third decade of Leo, which would be the Aries decade of Leo, yeah, which gives us the cardinal aspect of fixed fire's vital attributes entering our reading, entering our natal charts, yeah, the cardinal aspect of fixed fire. So we got fixed fire ready to get out there and start something new. And we have an exaltation here, which is the sun in Aries. So that's interesting, right? Mars is domiciled in Aries. The sun is domiciled in Leo. But in this card, we have Mars in Leo and the sun in Aries. Very, very interesting. We've got both of them together very strongly. And for Crowley, this is the card of individual bravery, but not necessarily in a good way. There are some negative aspects of that. We could be so taken with the energy of the battle that we don't see the damage of an unwinnable fight. You see this lion here is just full of fire. This lion-headed male-looking figure to me is full of fire, and there's fire above, and there's this band of golden helios radiance around the lion's head, which is powerful and strong, but maybe you see nothing else, right? There's no world really visible around this fiery lion. So the lion might be so taken with the energy of the battle, of the fight, that they don't see what's going on around them. And so there is a suggestion here from Crowley that we get what we can and then retreat. Because it's going to take a lot of energy to make a stand, and we might have that energy, but making the stand might deplete that energy. Does that make sense? So the challenge here is to not get carried away with our passions. Yeah? Now, the creator of this particular deck, rather than valor, calls it courage. Similar, yeah, it's a synonym. According to the creator of this deck, the world is bursting with opportunity. We just had that idea in the previous card, right? The Six of Swords, opportunity for exceptional or uncommon experiences. So the world here again is bursting with opportunity. So what gets our hearts racing? We're called to get out of the house and explore. So the uncommon and exceptional experiences that this card seemed to indicate for the creator of this deck, the challenge for us is to go out and find those, right? Our passions are the clues for what we can do and where we can go. We want to stand up for them. We want to avoid standing up in confrontation to others. And remember, there's that divergence of interpretation of experience that was indicated in that first card, which could lead to a conflict. We don't want to do that. We want to stand up for our passions and our interests, follow them, get out of the house and look around, have new experiences. That's the challenge. Without getting into a fight and fighting for things, right? Take what we can, have the experience, and then retreat. I think those two interpretations can go together harmoniously. Don't you? Do you? Can you see that? How Crowley's interpretation and the interpretation of the creator of this deck can alchemize into something new. So that's what we want to do. Get out of the house. What do we do when we get out of the house? We follow our passions. Those things that get our hearts racing and that get us excited. And explore what's out there. Yeah? So what is the advice? The advice is a very interesting card here. It's the Nine of Cups, which is happiness. And happiness, you don't see the title here, but that's what Crowley called it, happiness. The astrological association is Jupiter in Pisces, which is a perfect match. You notice that in these three cards, even the way I see the astrology of the Tarot, I read when there are no other interpretations, especially when I look at a more continental Tarot, I tend to like to follow Christine Payne-Towler's synthesis of the continental Tarot system and the traditional decadence of triplicities when I look at astrology associated with Tarot. Yeah, so Jupiter is a very happy camper in Pisces because Jupiter is domiciled in Pisces. So we have mutable water's vital attributes entering our reading here. Now we had mutable air entering with the Six of Swords as the mutable aspect of fixed air. Here we just have plain old mutable water with Jupiter in Pisces. That expansiveness of Jupiter in the depths of the water of Pisces, giving fortune and wealth and abundance to the mature depths of emotion of Pisces. Right? So, for Crowley, this is the card of good fortune manifested and expressed in life. It's expansion and creation. Yeah, Jupiter brings expansion, right? It's celebration to create or reward happiness. And that's an interesting way of saying that, right? Celebration. Celebration can be a reward for happiness. Yeah, we celebrate, we have a party at the end of some accomplishment or some successful event. However, the celebration can be used to create happiness, to create the happiness. Now we celebrate saying, yay, we're done, we succeeded, all is well, we're happy. But we can also use celebration to create happiness in the first place. So we have both of those things here. The wisdom, which is true wisdom, self-fulfilled in perfect happiness. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful bit of advice. And a bit challenging, perhaps, given the air and fire that we're coming from. A difficult challenge, maybe. Maybe something that won't be easy to accomplish. Now, the creator of this deck particularly, instead of happiness calls it joy. And so the author says to honor what gives us joy. See the magnificence in the universe and the magnificence that the universe offers us. We want to renew our amazement in the wonder of the material. Yeah? Beginner mind, the fool for God, that is in love with all of creation, erase that just, who is in love with all of creation because it is here and it is fresh and it is every moment of every moment of every moment newly created. That is our advice, to do that. And remember, we were asked to honor ourselves in the first card, in the science card. Here we're asked to honor what gives us joy. Just as we honored what gets our hearts racing, what stirs our passions in the Seven of Wands, here we honor what gives us joy. And we see the magnificence of all those things around us as we go out into the world and we look for those new experiences as we follow our passions and we follow that which gets us excited. And we interpret. We recognize our interpretations. We're gentle with ourselves. And when our interpretations are uncomfortable, we honor our experience and we do a little bit of self-care, perhaps, but we don't get into a fight over it. We let those things that are uncomfortable, that are out of sync, that are individually out of sync, pass us by. But if those things that are uncomfortable seem to be generally expressed in the world and we seem to be out of sync, then maybe we might want to take a look at where the truth is. Rather than standing up and saying, no, this is my experience. This is my truth. Well, yeah, it is. That's true. Honor that. But also look at that. Yeah? And create the joy. That is our advice. Rediscover our amazement in this universe and the wonder of all that is. Wonderful advice, but challenging. Given the other cards. So, yes, the fire and air and this water are challenging, but I think that is where we want to live, in that challenging space of both. Does that make sense? Friends, we've got 2 cards for advice to take a peek at from the Oracle deck. Let me show them to you right now. Friends, if you have been following this series with me, did you recognize something there? Yeah? Those 2 cards. One of them we had last week. Now we had the generosity card. We saw 2 cards, right? One of them on the left was the vision card, number 12. Now the numbers are not that important. They are the reference to basically the zodiac sign that the planet is in. Yeah, so 12 is Aquarius, right? I'm sorry, is Pisces. Oh my God, how could I have done that? I am a Pisces moon. I should know that 12 is Pisces. Yeah, number 12 is Pisces. And number 5 is Leo. Interesting, because I am a Leo sun and I am a Pisces moon. So personally, these 2 cards were interesting right out of the box. Right out of the deck, I should say. They've been out of the box for quite a while. Here is the first card, the vision card, right? And here you see on the top, there's an inner psychic eye. And below we have a lynx following the gaze of the rising or setting sun. Now that sun down there is looking over the water, right? Over the horizon. Now is the sun coming up? Is it going down? We don't know. But the sun has eyes and the sun is looking forward and the lynx is doing the same. Right? Very interesting. The astrology here is the sun in Pisces. We had Pisces in the 9 of Cups, right? We had the sun in the exaltation of the sun in Aries in the 7 of Wands. So we've got we've got the astrology and the planets highlighted a little bit in these 2 oracle cards. Now we had the 7 of Wands with that exaltation of the sun in Aries highlighted a little bit by the sun here. And we have the 9 of Cups highlighted because of Pisces. So what does this card mean? It means that we are sensitive to others' thoughts and feelings. Now, the sun in Pisces gives that kind of a character. Somebody sensitive to other people's thoughts and their feelings, and we might be inclined to become or do what other people want. If they look unhappy and uncomfortable and we sense that they want something from us or they want us to be something, we might be a little bit malleable and try and provide that for them. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing either. Or we might be able to exploit the feelings of the masses, of those around us, because we are sensitive to those. Now, we could react by trying to be what they need us to be or do what they need us to do, or we could take that information and be manipulative, basically. There's unconscious and imagination, which are our resources for creation here. Now, Pisces is a well and font of that, the unconscious and the imagination, and we have those as our resources here. Maybe we are discovering a new interest, which is indicated here, above I should say, in the tarot cards, right? With going out and having new experiences and following our passions and getting out of the house and into the world, right? We might want to be of service to others. And our service to others may produce satisfaction, recognition, and fulfillment for us. We might get that in return if we are in service. But we want to be careful that we are not feeding other people's negative needs. If somebody needs us to fulfill their addictive natures, that might not be the one to follow. We might not want to become the person that fulfills that need, or do the thing that fulfills that need. Yeah? Sometimes an alcoholic needs to hit rock bottom, rather than have us be the one to come up and clean up for them and enable them, which might be what they want. Right? And it's not only alcoholics. There are other, and I'm sure you know better than I, there are other codependent relationships that we may not want to fulfill because it's not helpful. But we have the potential here to be more sensitive and more aware of those things with this card, with this vision card. And being of service to others might be not fulfilling those things that we sense that they want us to be and do. That may actually be the best service we can perform in those unhealthy relationships or unhealthy desires and needs that some people have. Sometimes we have them too. But when the need or the desire is healthy and will actually be of benefit to others, then if we do that service for others, we will be rewarded with our own sense of satisfaction, with our feeling of being recognized, with our feelings of fulfillment, which are wonderful feelings, right? And the next card here is what? It's generosity, the card that we had last week. We had Saturn in Leo. We had Leo up there in the Seven of Wands, right? So the Seven of Wands is emphasized here. And we had Saturn where? We had Saturn as the complement of the Six of Swords. Yeah, Saturn was in Cancer as a complement to the Six of Swords card. So we have that too. We have all of the cards above there sprinkled with highlight in these two cards from below. Now, what is this image? Above we have a prophet. Yeah, up there speaking divine truth. Below we have another speaker. Let me point that speaker out. You see this person's facing away from us but towards a crowd, kind of in a kneeling position but hands spread out. What are they doing? They are speaking the truth of the prophet above to a crowd, and they are speaking enthusiastically, relaying the words of the prophet above. So that's a generous spirit, right? And this card asks us to use our tenacity and self-discipline in showing showy generosity for recognition and the betterment of life position. What does that mean? That means if we are generous in a very visible way, our position will be better. One way or another. Maybe socially, maybe financially, maybe creatively, I don't know. But our life position could be improved. This card also points to our ambition, which is backed by our artistic potential. And our desire for respect and ambition. That might make us overbearing or approval seeking, which is the shadow aspect of this card. So, when we notice ourselves craving respect and admiration from other people, we want to be careful. When we find ourselves wanting to give and be profusely generous, we might want to follow that. That might be helpful for us. We have creative joy to share with no attached strings. Our creativity and our joy in that, remember, we've got a lot of joy in this spread. We're called to joy. The advice is joy. So our creative joy, we can share that with others without any strings. And that showy generosity doesn't have strings either. It has good results, but we don't give things in order to get. We give things naturally, generously, and there is there's benefit for us. I'm going to give you this so that I can get that. I'm going to give you this because I am generous and I see that you will appreciate that. And then naturally there is something beneficial for us. Does that make sense, the difference there? Yeah? And we may need to deal with our disappointment in love or creative matters. There might be some disappointment here. And we can get help from others. But we do have creativity and we can express that creativity joyfully. And maybe that's how we can find the joy and happiness of the Nine of Cups, by engaging our creative talents, or whatever that talent is. That talent could be painting oil paintings. It could be creating sculptures, sure. Creating music, playing music, performing, dancing, whatever. But it could also be cooking. It could be cleaning a house. Our creative expression could be in our workplace. Creating a PowerPoint presentation, or creating a display in a store, or creating an organized shelf. Whatever our creative talent is, use that to create joy. In joy, right? That's the advice. That seems to be echoed as we generously share with others, not secretively, out in the open, so visibly. And we feel around for the way people are feeling and what they're thinking, and what are we called to do because of that? Without being manipulative. But what are we called to do and be because of that? Are we called to be the healer? Are we called to be the uplifter? Are we called to be the kooky humor giver? What are we called to be? What are we called to do? And the service we provide, the positive service we provide, will benefit us greatly. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I really do hope it does. I still haven't landed on a title. I'll come up with something in just a moment, but this is the end of the video, I believe. And so, what am I going to do? I'm going to say thank you. Thank you very much for being here on this journey. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing. It does help the channel. And thank you for commenting below. I really love hearing from you. Whatever arises for you watching this video, let me know in the comments below. And also, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.